What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday was the 4th of July, and hopefully everyone out there who was celebrating had a good time, ate a bunch of food, saw some fireworks, but that does also mean that yesterday was a bit lighter in the news cycle. However, that does give me a chance to go back and catch up on a story that's been making the rounds and building over the last several days, and that has to do with the situation around Nintendo's next generation device and a dev kit that apparently has been sent out, but we'll discuss all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony and Microsoft in the courtroom and how Microsoft may have actually just revealed that Sony is indeed planning a new system for 2023, and I'm not talking about that Project Q handheld streaming device. Oh, and we're also going to be talking about Tokyo Game Show, because it looks like this year we could be looking at a pretty massive show overall. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps that a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're going to start today with a PlayStation development kit that has actually appeared online. Of course, this for the Space Hangar PS5 looking dev kit, and you can see this posted up. This was reported by wololo.net, and it was apparently a Yahoo Auctions listing. I guess somebody just decided, hey, let's just throw this up online and see what we can get for it. Now, to my understanding, it looks like the bids ended right around 702,000 yen, and there were 68 bids for this device, so placed it near 5,000 US dollars. I'm not 100% sure what you do with this other than maybe just show it off, because to my understanding, at least according to MVG in his video where he looked at this, you have to activate it. Sony has to be aware that you are a registered developer working on games, and they have to kind of okay it on their end. Otherwise, it gets blacklisted and you're not really going to be doing much with it other than looking at it, or, hey, maybe in my case, tearing it down. But, well, I don't know if I'll ever get my hands on something like this. It would be kind of cool to see in a video down the road, maybe like 10 or 15 years or something from now. But according to Yahoo Japan, their auction, somebody got it for just under $5,000. Also, we had talked previously about Apple and their mixed reality headset, the Vision Pro, and the sticker shock that rang out online when they put the $3,500 price point up there. Well, it looks like Apple maybe isn't going to be hitting their internal target of producing 1 million units for 2024. This was reported by the Financial Times through a paywall, so we'll go through IGN. You can see this posted here, saying production difficulties in the complex design of Apple's $3,500 Vision Pro mixed reality headset have reportedly caused Apple to scale back its internal sales target of 1 million units sold in 2024, as is worried it won't be able to make enough of its newest device. So, not necessarily worried they won't be able to sell them, although I still kind of question that with that kind of price tag and the current economic climate, as they are now expecting to make less than 400,000 units in 2024, so seeing more than a 50% cut in overall manufacturing. And it also looks like they're pushing back the plans for a cheaper version of the Apple Vision Pro, and to me right now, you just got to make that thing cheaper if they want to reach a wider audience, as it's already difficult enough for headsets that cost $500 or $600, $700 to find that mainstream audience. A $3,500 headset through Apple that then taps you into that ecosystem that's kind of on the pricier side. It's not exactly going to be in every single household, but there we have it. It appears Apple not exactly having the easiest time just manufacturing these things currently. Oh, and I wanted to give you a bit of an update around that Red Dead Redemption remaster that was seemingly rated in Korea, as it looks like some info is coming out from Colin Moriarty over on Sacred Symbols, and we can see this quotation here that was transcribed by Gaming Route, saying, "I've seen confirmation that this is real. I had someone reach out to me behind the scenes that showed me something that definitely shows this game is coming, maybe even imminently, with an announcement maybe in August." So I have seen others mention this as well, that it was at one point paused in development, and maybe that rating could signal that it was quote unquote unpaused as of like last year. Eurogamer also reached out to Rockstar, kind of rattling the cage a bit. So maybe we will hear more about this just from Rockstar and Take-Two themselves now that it's kind of getting out there. But yeah, I would actually expect Red Dead Redemption to see kind of a cleaned up remaster is what we'll say. Not like a full-on remake, but them sort of just bringing it to modern systems now, running at a higher frame rate, nice and smooth, 4K visuals, all of that. But exciting stuff because Red Dead Redemption is a really good game, so it'll be a lot of fun to see an updated version released later this year. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and an apparent development kit, or a final dev kit, that has now been sent out to a studio. And I saw this story as it was happening, like almost immediately when the tweet was put out there. But I was still kind of unsure about some of the information here, and I didn't know if it would really blow up the way it did. I mean, it went everywhere online to the point where people have been messaging me about this constantly, just trying to get a take on what's happening here. So when you see like these articles pop up, just as an example from Go Nintendo with the headline, "Rumor dev kits for the Switch successor are being sent out," yeah, it starts to build a lot of momentum online. I mean, it was everywhere. And this really goes back to Nash Weedle with their initial tweet saying the Switch 2 development kit has arrived in Spain. The fact that a Spanish studio already has the kit, given Nintendo's secrecy policy, is a boost in their relations and indicates that we are in the last stages before the console's presentation. Now, they also went on to apparently like a video that was posted up from Beyond the Games, and they had mentioned a development kit where they are using the Pro Controller, not the controllers, because Nintendo does not want it to leak under any circumstances. We'll come back to that in a minute, but first let's start with Nash Weedle. Now, the reason that people have Nash Weedle with credibility is because they had previously talked about Metroid Dread quite extensively on the build-up to its eventual reveal and then obviously release. But that information was kind of already circulating, and people pointed out that there were actually a lot of things that were mentioned before by Nash Weedle. So how reliable are they? And looking at what they're saying here in Spain, put two and two together, people are assuming that this will be Mercury Steam, who would be getting this final dev kit for Nintendo's next platform. And the thing with development kits, especially in this case, it could legitimately just be kind of like a box or a very basic looking computer almost. And it's just there to kind of give you a targeted spec to sort of fit your game into. And people have pointed out that you don't necessarily need a dev kit to create the foundation for your game. You can kind of target specs yourself, and then when you do get the final specifications and the dev kit, you can then start to work your game into some of those constraints. Now, I do think the idea of the controller sort of being the most secretive part is the most interesting thing to this entire story. And again, I'm not really sure what the credibility would be here for Beyond the Games or anything like that, but we have heard Shigeru Miyamoto himself talk about reinventing the controller again. I mean, they did it with the Wii, proved to be pretty successful, I would say, right? How would they reinvent the controller now, though? We'll say in 2024, if that's when the system does indeed come out. It's really hard to say. I mean, I feel like we've kind of settled into a pretty good spot when it comes to like the interface for playing a game. But I've pointed out many times, that's also one of the biggest hurdles for people to get into games is the controller. While many of us who've been playing games for decades, not a big deal, people who pick it up for the first time, it's foreign to them. It's kind of difficult to maybe move your character in 3D space while also controlling a camera. I'm not really sure how you get around that, but I guess that's technically not my job to have that kind of imagination, and well, Nintendo certainly has one of those. Now, is it hard to believe that a studio working closely with Nintendo on potentially another 2D Metroid game would be getting a final dev kit? No, it's not hard to believe at all. I guess the biggest question mark obviously would be the source with Nash Weedle, and if they actually have heard this or if it's that accurate. But my only issue here is it's kind of being built up that Nintendo could be preparing to announce this thing anytime. In fact, some are saying it could be announced this month, and I don't actually think that's going to be the case. I believe the earliest you would see Nintendo announce this thing, probably October of this year, but the most likely scenario is that they prepare the announcement for their next system in 2024 and they avoid any kind of holiday overlap. So they don't necessarily shoot themselves in the foot for Switch sales by announcing that a better system maybe with full backwards compatibility is coming the next year, people would just technically hold out and wait to pick that one up rather than maybe a Switch OLED if they want to even upgrade their launch system this holiday. But that's just kind of where I am and my expectations are, and this report, while interesting, I don't necessarily know if I would all of a sudden start jumping to, we're going to see this thing anytime now when it could come out in 2023. I would still look towards holiday 2024 for the release of Nintendo's next generation system. I think that's the safe bet, at least for now, but Nintendo's weird. Sometimes they can come out of nowhere with their announcements, so I guess you never know. But for me, I'm looking towards next year for them to officially reveal and release the next platform. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and Sony, with Sony apparently preparing two different devices for this holiday. One, they've already shown us, and that's their Project Q streaming handheld. The other is reportedly this PlayStation 5 Slim device with a detachable disk drive. Sounds weird. I mean, really does. But so did that Project Q, or that Q Lite device. But it's a thing, and it's coming out later this year. And now it appears, according to some filings from Microsoft during this entire FTC case, they also expect Sony to be coming out with a PlayStation 5 Slim revision. We can see this posted up. This part of the court filings over on Xputer says PlayStation likewise sells a less expensive digital edition for $399.99 and is expected to release a PlayStation 5 Slim later this year at that same reduced price point. That does not surprise me at all, by the way, because basically what they're going to be doing is refining their digital edition PlayStation 5 so that it has some sort of interface with a detachable disk drive, that allowing them to basically replace both variants of the PS5. They don't have to ship a disc-based or a digital-based system. They just ship one. And then they also ship the separate accessory that's the detachable disk drive. This just continues to add more backing to what Tom Henderson has reported time and time again now, with updates here and there around this detachable disk drive PlayStation 5. But Microsoft does go a step further. They also anticipate Sony to release a PlayStation 5 Pro at some point. And that was also part of the rumor mill and reporting with Tom Henderson, that we would see that detachable disk drive PS5 this holiday, and then potentially the PS5 Pro in holiday 2024. Microsoft, at least Phil Spencer, has said that they don't have plans for a mid-gen refresh Xbox Series X Pro, Xbox Series XX, XL, whatever name they could come up with there. So I guess at least at this time, according to Phil Spencer, they have no problem with Sony maybe going ahead and taking the lead on the overall more powerful device with the PlayStation 5 Pro. They would also be working with several different SKUs then, obviously, with, I mean, they'd still support the standard PS5 systems we have now, the detachable disk drive PS5, and then a PS5 Pro. And to go along with all of that, they'd have accessories like Project Q. So a lot of stuff there under that PlayStation 5 umbrella. But if Sony is going to be releasing this revision for the PS5 this holiday, they'd probably be putting it out, I assume, September or October, which means they're going to be announcing it soonish, and most likely it'll just be in like a PlayStation blog post they put out there. They probably won't even do it in a state of play like they did with the Project Q and the earbuds. I assume this will be a pretty quiet press release and then release in like a month or two after that. So I guess keep an eye on PlayStation blog for whenever Sony is ready to announce this thing, but certainly interested in this device, seeing how that detachable disk drive will function, because I assume they would have created it in a way that like the mainstream, the basic user would be able to use and maybe upgrade their digital edition. And will that detachable disk drive work with the current digital PlayStation 5? I guess we'll see. Next up, let's talk about Tokyo Game Show 2023. It'll be starting Thursday, September 21st, run all the way through the weekend until September 24th, that's Sunday. And I've been waiting to see who would be attending this thing. Will we have the big three return with Xbox, Sony, and Nintendo? Or will it be kind of quiet and Sony will just kind of bypass it? Nintendo won't really do much there, and then Microsoft will do their best to sell the Xbox to the Japanese audience? Well, it actually looks like Tokyo Game Show to be pretty big this year. We did have the entire exhibitor list released, and it's massive. Like there are a lot of different companies and brands that will be represented, but the big three will indeed be returning to Tokyo Game Show all at the same time, although in varying degrees. So you can see the entire exhibitor list here, and again, it's a lot to go through, but I will go over some of the highlights that people may be curious about. For example, Sony will be there, but it'll mostly be the indie game area only. So they'll be there representing some of the smaller titles, which I think is still really cool to have, and they'll most likely have a bunch of playable titles from some of their indie partners. Nintendo will be there, but business meeting area only. So they'll be meeting with developers and publishers, I'm sure making some deals behind the scenes, and who knows, maybe they'll be doing some stuff behind closed doors with hardware coming up next year. Interesting stuff. Microsoft, Xbox will be there seemingly in full force, so I guess we'll see what kind of reveals they would have. Bandai Namco, Capcom, Koei Tecmo, Konami, Level 5, Sega, Atlus, Square Enix, Kojima Productions. Apparently Kojima merchandise sales only, so he'll be there, I guess, selling a bunch of shirts and little Lumen figures and stuff like that. Then also just many, many others, again, as you can see from this entire exhibitor list. So this is obviously exciting stuff. Again, we didn't have the typical E3. We had a lot of different showcases spread out throughout June and seemingly a little bit in July so far. But Tokyo Game Show, I think this year should be a lot of fun stuff announced there, and I'm definitely looking forward to it to see what we can get out from there, and maybe even some leaks and some rumors and stuff coming out of it, potentially for Nintendo. Tends to happen when you have some of these backroom dealings and stuff. Maybe some things get whispered to some reporters and stuff there. So we'll see what happens, but look forward to Tokyo Game Show in that third week of September, because I think we're gonna see a lot of really cool reveals. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new emulator that's been spotted and seemingly is in early development at this time and would be working to bring full retail PlayStation 4 games to your PC. We can see this over on Games Radar, where they say the team behind RPCS3, which is the PS3 emulator, and that's been, as they mentioned, ongoing for more than a decade now, seems to be working on a PlayStation 4 emulator called RPCSX. It's spotted on GitHub and is pointed out in the original blog post. Seems to be in the very, very, very early stages of development. We already have, I believe, a couple of PS4 emulators that some are better than others, we'll say, but we don't have one that just full on running all kinds of different retail full games right now. But it seems very promising that we're starting to see kind of the emulation scene around the PS4 start to pick up. You might be wondering, well, what's the point of a PS4 emulator when you see the PS5 playing all those PS4 games and the fact that there are a ton of PS4 systems out there? Well, as is pointed out by the team there that's working on RPCSX, more for preservation's sake, the idea of a game maybe being pulled from PSN, but still something you can pick up and download online, like say PT, you'd be able to play that through an emulator on your PC. And I have a feeling that's one of the big games they're going to work to try to get playable right away, probably PT, because I'm sure that's what many people will be asking right away anyway, right? So interesting stuff there. Seems like we're still fairly early on, so it's probably going to be several years before we have a PS4 emulator that is absolutely playing like the bulk of different retail full games for the console, but still fun stuff there, especially for the emulation scene. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you were Nintendo, which game would you launch the next generation platform with? New 3D Mario game got 41%. I can't push back on that too much, although a new Mario Kart, I mean, that's the move. That's the game, as we've seen with this generation with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, moving ridiculous amounts of units, right? I mean, people are picking up a Switch and then they pick up Mario Kart. So hard to ignore that one. I am a little surprised Metroid Prime 4 got the second most votes, though. Metroid Prime 4, I think will do well. It's not doing the numbers or the poll that Mario would, so I feel like you go with either a Mario Kart game or a new 3D Mario game. Either one of those, by the way, seemingly are set up. Been a long time since we had a brand new Mario Kart game. I mean, there's the Wii U. That was the last time we had a brand new one. And it's also been a while since we have a new 3D Mario game. I mean, that's basically what Nintendo worked to launch the Switch with next to Zelda in that first year. So Either one I think could work, and I have a feeling Nintendo might even have both planned in that first year once again, so we'll see. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from 44, says, Nintendo gave us a little freedom and y'all did this with it. We're never getting voice chat in these consoles. That, of course, referencing the situation with everybody want to Switch and the ability to take pictures with your phone and have them represent you in the game. I'll let you kind of fill in the blanks there. But I do wonder if Nintendo Japan and CL looks at this and goes, do you see what happens when we give them some freedom? Look at this. But also, this is the mobile phone users, not the Switch users. The Switch users don't have that kind of freedom with a camera on the device. So maybe what Nintendo needs to do is realize that they got to reel back the voice chat and just give it to the Switch owners. They're the ones following the rules, mostly because they can't take pictures with the Switch. I feel like Nintendo gave the Switch a camera. Well, they'd probably be dealing with this a lot more often. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's the Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit situation that's been building over the last several days? Are you someone who's anticipating an announcement this month, or do you think Nintendo could be waiting till later this year or even next year to show off what's next after the Switch? Then also, what about Sony and a potential PlayStation 5 Slim console? Would you be interested in it? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.